Welcome to AFI Fest, presented by Audi. My name is Sarah Harris. I'm the Director of Programming for AFI Festivals. I want to thank all of our supporters of the festival, including our presenting sponsor, Audi, our AFI members, and you, our audience, for joining us. I'm here with the fabulous writer-director of Uncle Frank, Alan Ball, and some of his lovely cast. Paul, Sophia, and Peter are all here. Welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Great to be here.
Nice to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us, and congratulations on the film. First of all, it's a really lovely, beautiful story, and I'm excited to be here with you today to talk about it a little bit. Alan, my first question is for you, which is thank you for making a film about a gay couple where one of them does not die. I am so happy about that. I am kind of curious about, some of your stories do tend to be about death, but I think this film is actually a lot more about healing. And I'm kind of curious if you could tell us more about your decision in making that for Uncle Frank.
Well, there's been a lot of great movies about gay men and their struggle to be who they are at various points in our history. And a lot of the great classic movies, which I love, Brokeback Mountain, of course, The Single Man, usually somebody has to die. And I don't really remember seeing a movie about a gay couple who are, middle-aged and they're a fixture. They're a lifelong fixture for each other, and nobody has to die. So that was certainly one thing that I definitely wanted to do, is not have the obligatory, oh, he's gay, so he has to die, or one of them has to die, so the other one has to be tragic for the rest of his life. Yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think it's really wonderful and much needed. So I really appreciate you adding this to the repertoire. And you're from the South, correct? So, how much of the story is kind of based on personal experience or your background?
Well, it's not autobiographical, this story, but when I came out of the closet to my mother, I was living in New York at the time, and I took a trip home to Marietta, Georgia, which is where she lived and where I grew up. And I told her that I was gay, and she grabbed her head like if she didn't hold on to it, it would shoot off into space. And she said, "Oh, God has dealt me some blows in this life." And I started laughing because I didn't know what else to do. And then she said, she mentioned a male relative of mine who had died. And she said, "Well, I think he was that way too." And I said, "Wow, really?" And then later on that same trip, we were visiting relatives in North Georgia, and we drove past a lake that was part of a state park. And she said, very nonchalantly, "Well, that's where Sam Lassiter drowned." And I said, "Well, who was Sam Lassiter?" And she said, "He was a real, real, real good friend of the relative that she had brought up the day before." And so my inner Tennessee Williams just took over, and it sort of percolate, yeah. Vegetate, that's not exactly, that's me personally, actually. And it sort of percolated for a few years, and then I just sat down one day and wrote the script. Not that I wrote the script in one day, but I started working on it, and within a few months I had finished it. And also a lot of the family structure and the way they ate their birthday dinner outside, and a lot of that stuff is directly from my history with my family, a lot of the details.
Right. And did you always have some of these cast members in mind, like Paul and Sophia? And I know that you have obviously worked with Peter before in the past, so tell us a little bit about that. Were you writing with certain actors in mind, and how did they maybe get involved in this?
I wasn't writing with certain actors in mind. I don't do that because for whatever reason, when I'm writing, the character is more mysterious and therefore more interesting if I'm not thinking, oh, it's going to be this person or that person. But then once I had the script and once we started to actually, you know, get producers attached and involved and it looked like it was going to happen, it was one of those great things where you just, you know, I had seen Sophia on the HBO show Sharp Objects. And I went, who is that girl? I can't take my eyes off of her. And so we got in touch with her people and sent her the scripts and she said, yeah, I'm interested. And then Paul, I had a phone conversation with him thinking, oh God, I have to be really good because I have to convince him to do this because he's perfect for it. And we had a really, really lovely phone conversation. And I could just tell that, you know, we would both be wanting to make the same movie and that he really understood it on like a cellular basis. So it was one of those instances where, you know, you just think, oops, I dropped out there, where you just think, I would love to work with this actor, and they say yes. And it's kind of great when that happens.
Yeah. And Paul, so when you read the script, what was it in particular that made you connect to it so closely that you can speak?
Well, I read the script and I was terrified of it, and my initial reaction was to not engage, and then I reread the script and I thought that I was terrified of it because of a lot of my father was a gay man. He came out at 63 and then went back into the closet just prior to him dying, after his partner had died before him, and I was a little frightened of going there in my head, because that amount of denial led to a situation where my father behaved in some very unhelpful ways. And then I think maybe my initial fear of going there was, I think, the reason that I ended up going there. And then I rung up Alan, and we had this beautiful chat that he's referencing, and it felt really important, and it felt like I had something to add to it. You know, having had a very similar experience with my father, and it really was incredibly cathartic experience. I let go of a lot of stuff. I mean, it's sort of wonderful. It's the sort of the only thing that is edifying about being an actor, is imagining yourself in somebody else's situation. And for me in this, of course, it's not in the script, but for me in this, it was sort of imagining myself in my father's situation, and all of the decisions that he had made to sort of to hide who he was at a really fundamental level, and it really led to a lot of forgiveness for me, from me. So that it was amazing. It was, I don't want to get too mawkish, but it was a really amazing experience.
Yeah. No, I mean, it sounds, I mean, that speaks through to the film. I think there is a true kind of genuine spirit within this, with all the relationships in the film, and especially for like the Uncle Frank character, but the mentorship, and but also the family dynamic between the characters. I just, for all three of you, for Sophia and Peter as well, can you maybe talk a little bit about the challenges in those performances of pulling back the layers of your character, because it does reveal like some very deep, I think, personal feelings between everyone on, you know, all of the characters. I'm just curious about that.
Do you want to go, Sophia?
Me first? Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, all right. I can do that. So the thing with this character, what I really loved is that she was a narrator of the story. She's The story is being told through her eyes. So mainly everything is happening and she's there witnessing and being a part of it in that sense. And it was a character that I haven't really played before. That was going to be, I knew that was going to be a bit of a challenge. Also that I get to really work with a lot of adult actors. It's mostly just me with a bunch of other kids my age, which is in a way is a lot better because I get to learn. Because when you're an actor as a kid growing up, you don't really have a specific way of getting into character, a specific set technique. But everyone, like adult actors, as you grow, you find something that fits you and find something that works. And getting to actually see people and work with actors that have that technique and have something that works for them, you get to really learn a lot about yourself and how, I feel like I learned a lot just from being there, which was good. As for the character has to go through, even though she doesn't really, it's mostly about them. She does go through a lot in the sense of she's fit in this very, she's in this small town. She feels stuck. She feels like this is my life, and she idolizes her uncle. He's the one that got out. He's smart. He knows things, and he's something she really wants to be. I want to be that intelligent person. I want to be someone like him. And then slowly she sees him through a different light. The more she gets to be a part of this world, the more she sees a world outside of where she lives and outside this, country town and everything. She sees him for who he is and his troubles and his fears, and because of that, she becomes a better person. Not because she becomes Uncle Frank, she becomes someone different, someone new, someone like Uncle Frank. But I lost where I was going. I was trying
she
somewhere with that, I swear.
No, she sees the complications in people and the gray and the complexities of all these things, which I think is something everyone has to kind of go through with mentors, especially. And it's a tough. Sometimes it's really tough to witness that, and I think a lot of people can relate to that for sure. Peter, do you have anything you want to?
Yeah, sure. For me, it was when I first read the script, I was like, where is his emotional baggage? What's his trauma? And that was kind of different from whatever I have played before. And to me, it took like a minute or two for me to get the character, because I'm used to work from their background and what they went through and but he was very straightforward. He had tremendous amount of love for Frank, and he's such a kind person. That was kind of hard to relate to, being so self-sacrificing to play that so convincingly. but if you want to dig deeper, it's just I think Wally wanted to sort of use Frank's family as a substitute for his own, just because he couldn't have that relationship with his own family the way he could have a great and a deep relationship with Frank's family. And I think that was his motivation to be so supportive of Frank and to really push him to go to visit his family back and his dad's funeral and rekindle the relationship that he had with his family. I think that was very sort of beneficial for Wally as well on a selfish level, because he was yearning for a family that he couldn't have himself with his own, based on his religious and cultural background. So that was kind of cool to play, I thought. And there was some levity to his way of being that was something new for me, that I had never been cast in situations or roles like that. So I thought, what the heck.
Yeah. And Paul, this is a little bit different than a Marvel character, right?
It is. Although as a red robot, you can also feel a lot of isolation, I think, not a lot of people like you think in the world. For me, I remember my dad telling me, my dad told me this story. And I guess it was when he had sort of come out to the family, and he was living in Scotland with his partner, and he had not come out in the local community, and there was a press article about me in a disgusting tabloid that I will not mention, and he was sort of outed in his local community. And this really hit me in this story. Is my dad remembers driving with his partner and a car coming alongside him, and he was terrified. And they were trying to get him to wind down the window, and he thought it was going to be abusive. And he lived in this very rural part of Scotland, and he finally wound down the window, and the guy wound down his window, and he went, "Good on you, Thane, we love you," and sped off. And I've really loved the moment where all of the terror that he has about coming out to his family is like, air coming out of a balloon at the end of the movie. And there are little things in your own life and your history, or history of someone you love, that you sort of grab onto and imagine being that person. And like I said before, it's the only edifying bit of the job, is to sort of imagine what somebody else's experience is like.
Yeah. And so that you kind of mentioned the end of the film, and that's one of my favorite scenes. I really love that moment with when Margot Martindale is in Daddy Mac's chair, and it's such a symbolic kind of scene between you and her. And I'm curious to hear if you just kind of talking, and Alan too, of kind of the process of that moment and getting to that kind of release, and that because it sounds like there's a little bit of that based on what you said with your mother and the kind of the mentioning as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly when I wrote that scene, it obviously played out very different than my actual coming out scene in real life did with my mother, who by the way, eventually came around, and we were able to have a real, genuine, relationship. And I'm very grateful for that. I mean, I guess I don't really think about what the theme or the message or whatever the movie is when I'm writing it. It's a more organic process for me. I guess I just wanted there to be such forgiveness. And I also think by Frank being honest about who he is, he like I did with my own mother, he can have a real relationship that's not based on secrecy. And that's incredibly healing. And even though there are members of the family who don't really know how to respond or don't really accept him for who he is, I think you get a sense at the end of the movie that he is a part of this family, and in large part because of the way his mother set the tone of acceptance.
Yeah, the new matriarch is in charge.
She's in the big chair now.
Yeah. It's a statement for sure. I'm curious if there's any other scenes in particular that were very important to you or had like a special impact as well.
Is that for all of us?
Alan?
For all of you, any of you, whoever might have anything.
Somebody else go first.
No.
Let me think.
Are we talking about like a favorite scene when we shot it?
Favorite scene, yeah, Peter.
Yeah. No, I remember because I have this penchant for drama. I remember I enjoyed working on the hallway scene with Paul.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Frank when he confronts him about his alcohol. That I really liked that. I really liked working on that scene. I mean, I had real fun doing it. I remember that was one of my favorite scenes that I worked on.
We had a good day there, Peter.
Yeah, that was a good day.
Good day. Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody gets lucky sometimes. You know?
Exactly.
Sophia, do you have any particular scene with these two gentlemen that stood out, will always be a memory, or?
A lot of scenes with Peter in the car were something. Great dress.
I've never seen two people eat so much ice cream in my life.
I think she was scared for her life because of my driving. She was terrified. She went, I'm only 17. What are you doing?
Yeah, we also did a scene with the ice cream, and because the thing with food and in movies and such, you have a lot of takes, and you don't expect it to be a lot. You think, oh, ice cream, love that, a little bit of that every day, it's good. But after like the 20th take, it's less, appealing. What scenes did I enjoyed the scene? There was a diner scene with Paul, which I enjoyed a lot, because that was during those days we were doing a lot of car scenes. So finally we're in a hot car and actually sitting down, air conditioned space, which was good. They did as much as they could, but that kind of heat. But that was a lot of fun because that's when she's really getting into becoming kind of her own person, kind of getting out of her own skin. And that was just a lot of fun, kind of going one-on-one with him and actually kind of she's having a little fun, making little jokes. And you get to I really liked her. I really liked that scene specifically. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, that's my favorite scene.
So, Alan, what was your favorite scene to shoot?
Oh, no.
You know what? I have many favorite scenes. I love the scene with Beth and Frank in the kitchen when he says, are you going to be who you want to be, or the person that other people decide you're going to be? I love that scene. I love pretty much the whole party sequence from the moment when Wally opens the door.
Yes.
And I love the scene of the graveyard scene because it's just so. I just feel like it's so beautifully performed on both your part, Paul, and you, Peter, as well. I think that's such a genuinely compassionate moment that I just love it. And I love the scene where young Frank tells young Sam that they can't be who they are. Because he thinks he's doing the right thing, and it's so heartbreaking. Yeah. And also every other scene in the movie.
in the whole movie. Well, I have one more question before we have to go for you, Alan. But are you hoping to work more in features in the near future? I know that this is because of the TV aspect. It's kind of all consuming, and this is a great forte back into feature filmmaking. And I'm just curious if one is drawing on your heart more than the other, a TV feature, whatever will get made. I mean,
yeah, it's not up to me. If it were, I think I would prefer to do features, just because you get a little bit more time, and you can spend a little bit more time trying to craft each moment. But I love working in television, and the landscape is changing so much every single day. So ultimately it's up to somebody who's going to say, yes, we will finance that. You can do that. And so I'll take either.
Well, I hope that they will watch this and know that you're ready for that call. I'm sure that they are. Yeah.
From your mouth to God's ears.
You have to speak it into existence, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. We have to wrap it up. This has been lovely chatting, and we could go on forever talking about this beautiful movie. For those of you at home, tell your friends this film will be released on Amazon Prime on Thanksgiving. Perfect family film to watch at home after a virtual Macy's parade. It is, though. It's just a lovely film, and I'm so grateful that we're able to incorporate it into the AFI Fest program this year. Thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for being here and talking about Uncle Frank today. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.